The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show for week 2 of the World Film Project. Today features a discussion of the 1992 film Sodoma Reykjavik, if I pronounced that right, also known as Remote Control, which will probably be what it's referred to from here on out. And joining me again from The Hollywood Reporter, and you know her from E! News and Culturesque, with a record-setting 4th appearance on the show, the dark goddess of the underworld, Sharareh Drury.
What's up? You know, I wore a very dark shirt today too.
Oh, there you go. Oh, perfect.
It's a Bone Daddy sipping on some coffee, so I'm bringing my dark goddess vibes to this.
Gotcha. This is awesome. Yeah. Well, you also have the record 4th appearance in 1 year. And you're gonna pad it next week. You're gonna pad it next week. You're also the first to be on consecutive weeks too. I know I have Old Space Show, but I kind of don't count that because it's like one project and people, they're on every week for that, but we record those in big blocks. So I'm talking show proper 4.
I'm a rock star. I'm working at home in this pandemic. I got to do something fun.
Right.
Got to do something.
Of course. How's your week been this week?
You know what? It's been pretty chill. I've been working on a lot of stuff at THR, which is always great, but busy, and I'm catching up on a lot of shows that I've put to the wayside because I was playing a game that has been out for a while, but I've never played it, the Mass Effect trilogy. Never played it before. So they have their Legendary Edition out where I guess you can play the games back to back. So I was just playing that for a month. I'm a slow video game player. So I was playing it. And now that I'm not playing a game anymore, I'm like, okay, what's been on TV for the past month? So I've just been doing that, binging TV while I have free time.
Gotcha. I've been catching up stuff too. I've had review copies. I had the week of PopCon and the weekend before, I had my internet go out, thanks to AT&T. It's a long story. So I had no access. And that was the weekend. The weekend it went out was the weekend that Soderbergh had that new movie. Tomorrow War came out. Gunpowder Milkshake came out. I Think You Should Leave Season 2 came out. All this stuff dropped. And I'm not going to watch it on my phone. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not going to watch it on my phone. I couldn't write at home and stuff. It was... So my Crow episode from now 2 weeks ago when this drops, I recorded at my sister-in-law's house because I didn't want to mess with the recording scheduling. So that was awkward. But yeah, I'm catching up on that stuff too. And I think I'm recharged finally from PopCon and then the Paranormal Crossroad premiere party I went to the following weekend. So I think I'm actually
You've been busy. You've been busy.
I've been in demand, I guess, somewhat, but it's been fun. Fun. Now I'm going to be a hermit again for a while. I like to do. So we're going from Turkey of the late 1970s to this week, Iceland of the 1990s. So let's get into Remote Control.
Get into it.
It is. All right. Here we go. If you guys want to play drinking games to my pronunciation of names and struggle, get mad at me, curse me during this point. This is worse than last week.
Yeah, these are a little harder. I'm not going to lie.
Iceland has figures. I don't know what they are, and I don't know how to pronounce them. So enjoy my struggle. It's written and directed by Oscar Jonasson. All right. That's one. And it's starring Bjorn Jorundar, Friorbjørnsen. Okay. Soli Eliasdottir, Sigurgen Kjartnansen, Olafur Gudmundsson, Perian Ayajaforo, and Helgi Bjørnsen.
I'm nodding along to all of this.
All you United States listeners, just think I got it right? They're like, hey, you got it. He got it down. He got it from Iceland. Yep.
Iceland.
Not Greenland, but that
Which is
Iceland.
actually, Iceland's very green. It's
It is
very
very
lush.
green,
It's beautiful.
Iceland is a country in movies, like, you probably, like, it's the one they use for, like, Interstellar, right? And they used it for Rogue One, because there's a lot of gloomy, rainy areas and stuff there, and that kind of mountainy, weird gray region or something. It's otherworldly, which is not otherworldly because it's on our world.
But it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful country. I mean, even in this area, like wherever this was filmed, I'm not sure specifically. I mean, as much of like a chill little town, like Sleepy Town, it wasn't so sleepy in this film, but like it's like it seems like just like any kind of, it's a very regular looking town, but the landscape's gorgeous. Yeah. It's like huge and green. It's got like big like hills and mountains and stuff. It was a really cool area. So yeah.
Visit Iceland.
Yeah, this is our tourism
yes. Visit Iceland. This is our travelogue, the Brandon Peters Show travelogue, as we talk about places I've never been, but I've seen in movies. So I can tell you all about it. This one, the movie Remote Control, is about here's a synopsis. Since his mother wants to watch TV, Axel, a young auto mechanic, cool name, must recover her remote control, accidentally taken by his punk sister, Maja. During his quest, he becomes involved in the conflict between Molly, the liquor smuggler, and Agi, a nightclub owner who wants to be Iceland's first mafia boss. The film came out in 1992, but did screen at Cannes in the Uncertain Regard section in 1993. But I like to describe this one as this is Iceland's After Hours, the Martin Scorsese film, or Trojan War. That's a film, a straight-to-video movie I liked in the 90s with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Will Friedle. Go, the basically one crazy night genre. Like, that's what it takes place. You start with a little mission, and it turns into just bonkers. Absolute
chaos.
So in, like, for instance, I mentioned Trojan War. It's about Will Friedle about to score with like this girl he likes from high school a bunch, but he doesn't have a condom. He has to go out and just simply buy a condom, and the night just goes haywire from there.
Like super bad. You know what I mean? Like these just like super bad, like these kinds of films where, and I mean, of course, because it's, I mean, this was what in the 90s this was made, or what was the year?
1992. Yeah.
So it's a great
predates all this stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, what's so relatable, no matter, I feel like when these films happen, if they're 70s, 80s, 90s, or even to now, it's a relatable, like crazy night, like teen experience. Like there's so many elements of just like Axel wanting to be cool, meeting this mystery girl. Her name's Unar, I think. Unar in the film. And it's like, he meets her. He's like kind of trying to impress her. He's got his like little punk sister, literally like little punk sister with her spiky hair, they're both
really
like
blonde, spiky hair.
Really blonde, spiky hair, which I love. I was just like, she is so cool.
She looks so great. You're like, where do I know her from? You don't
know her from
anything,
no.
But she looks iconic, like
She's
immediately.
So cool. I loved every single outfit that she had. I love also just like, it's like the little elements, like, you know, his annoying mom who's begging him to like bring a remote control home, like such a simple task.
Yep.
And there's the band, what was it? Ham, I think, is like the Icelandic band that's in this too. And that like punk rock scene. I don't know. I just loved it. And I think I think anyone who just loves that kind of like crazy night film scene, you would enjoy this. You would enjoy it. It was wild. There's
no way. Like I think with my listeners, 95% of you would like this movie.
Yeah, like, I'm going to agree because it's hilarious.
It's hard not to get into. Like, this thing takes off. It is under an hour and 20 minutes, and it just flies. It doesn't waste time. No. It's good. Like, and it's a really awesome like teen movie. Like from the night, and Iceland was happening. There's a lot of styles and stuff that I saw in this movie that hadn't taken off in America yet. They would later. But they weren't happening in America. We were still kind of in 1992, we were still in hair metal land. Nirvana was starting to come out, and it was going to turn to grunge. And after grunge, then it leans on this stuff.
Right.
But this is like what you get with the techno stuff coming later. And but they were ahead of their time. And this movie is ahead of a lot of stuff that would be like it in the 90s. Because the One Crazy Night genre, there was a lot of them in the 90s. They still make them today. But this was like, wow, they were ahead. Like, the only thing I can think of prior is After Hours from Scorsese in the early 80s.
Right.
That's about the only one I can think of.
It was so good. And I mean, there's so many things that we can like get into about it, but I just think overall, just the fact that what you just said, the timing of the film, the fact that it's not, nothing really lags. It's almost like there were moments where I had to like rewind a beat.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what just happened in like these 30 seconds? Like, cause it's like, and I think that's probably what makes it so ridiculous is it's going at warp speed.
Right.
Like it goes from a kid working, it's Axel, like, which is, yes, hilarious name for a mechanic, working at his mechanic shop, getting a call on like a speaker from this woman being like, your mom's calling and your mom just wants a remote.
Yeah.
And getting like totally embarrassed at work and then like having to go on this journey to get a remote, which by the way, I was just thinking like also how 90s is that a remote would be like in such high demand and so hard to get. But it's also funny because it's like, I get it. It's in Iceland. So it's funny that he needs to like go to like some underground market to find a freaking Samsung remote control.
Well, like what happens?
I was like, how hard is it to get one of these?
Yeah, so this is a movie about a really simple small town that has this somehow has this like complex underground world that exists in it, which is hilarious when you see it.
Yeah.
But like he got the remote at the beginning. He gets the call from his mom, which everybody at this auto mechanic place is like, take a message. None of them want to talk on the phone. And then the receptionist keeps going on the intercom spouting off stuff his mother's telling him that's kind of embarrassing. So he gets it. And the thing he goes to find his sister or something who's seeing a guy in the band or friends with the band Ham. And they're like, we don't know what their relationship is, but they're obviously like together in some way. And
like
the main guy just sleeps on couches. Like that's what he like, cause
that's his thing.
Everywhere they go, he like finds a place to lay down in. And I think, so they go to this house and it's like on fire. It's been ransacked because Unar, they're looking for her brother. And when he's there, he's like, where's the remote? And they find out the guy from Ham had stolen it, but he left it at Unar's place. They go to Unar's place and it's melted because of the fire that was the arsonist set there. And she's like, oh, I can get you one from my brother if you take me to him or something like that. That's where she gets involved in him.
That's where it starts to kind of develop.
Yeah. At first, like
come meet this brother that's not going to cause any problems at all for you.
Right. He's just a guy who hawks electronics from above a liquor store, which is funny as hell. Yeah, like that's where they go. Like, and he goes under Molly, right? That's his alias.
Yes, Molly. Yeah, exactly. Molly is his like alias, and when they go to that liquor store and like they go like I guess it's like an above the liquor store, like this hideout where they have like all of this merchandise. I don't know what they were making in this movie. It's like they're creating some kind of alcohol. I don't know, some drink. Yeah. It was like a freaking meth lab. Like, I was like, what is this guy doing? But it was so weird because there was like a baby and like a family and they're all like, they've got like board games up there.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of like electronics, which is like what Axel wants. But also, they're creating some kind of mystery booze, which I guess leads into why there's some bad guys looking for Molly, because he apparently deals this shitty booze and it doesn't do anything. It just knocks people out. Like they can't rage on it. It's an extreme depressant. There's no uppers happening in this drink.
No. Yeah. And there's these three dudes that are mysteriously trailing Axel. And you're like, who are these tough guys or whatever? What's this going to be? And they end up kidnapping Unar, the sister, and that's where it starts actually because they follow them to the liquor store, which Unar says like, no, but I've never taken anybody. You're the first person to see my brother's operation or something. And they have this like square, like one of those police mirror things where you can see through on one side and the other's a mirror, and somebody falls through it and it becomes a.
Oh my God! It's her. Like, she falls through
because they have a rug over it.
how do you fall through a ceiling? I was like, what the hell is happening? This homegirl falls through a ceiling, and then there's like a tug of war happening between the floors where I'm like, they're gonna rip her legs off or her clothes or something's gonna happen. And like these, I don't know, Costco budget mafia guys. Like they're like low rent mafia. I don't know what they're like, not even a mafia. They're just two guys and a boss.
Yeah, they are we'll get to them in a sec because they are a treat. The funny thing is the connection here, because Axel's just like, can I just get my remote and go?
Right.
But he only has one remote that would work on his mom's TV that Molly does, and it winds up with Unar. She ends up having it when they steal her. So he has to go after that with Molly. And these guys, these mafia guys, there's like the leader guy who kind of runs the club. There's this fucking crazy guy, this nut job.
Absolute nut job. He freaks me out.
And then there's the guy that's kind of like, I don't want to be here. Like, and they are they want to be a mafia in Iceland, and it's only the three of them, and they only know mafia stuff by what like they've read or seen in movies.
Right.
So it's funny. They're like, well, we have a girl. Like, I guess we should sexually assault her or make porn.
That's right. They were in the car and they're just like debating, like, it's Aggie, right? Aggie's the name of the, like, he's like the quote boss of like this like little like trio of like wannabe mafia guys. And they have Unar in the car and they're just like, yeah, like, oh, we should make her like a prostitute, like create a brothel. Right. Best thing ever though is I love how the girl is kind of sitting there going like, yeah, I can help y'all make a brothel. Right. I know some girls. She's like, I just love how instead of her being absolutely terrified or scared, she's just a badass. And she's like, no. Right. And I think like the crazy gangster guy, like, I guess, like, or like henchman, I guess he's like a henchman, like the crazy one with like, he's got these like little like bifocal glasses. He keeps like trying to like touch her and she just like smacks him. Yeah. And it's hilarious because it's like obviously like in a real life scenario, like you'd be scared to death, but she's like, literally none of you scare me. You all are idiots. Yeah. You are all dopes. I feel like she's just sitting here like, this is the worst Uber ride of my life. This will eventually end. And I'm like, because the other thing too is it's like none of them are able to like hurt anybody, kill anybody. Like there's no like serious threat. And I think what's the funniest part of watching this as an outsider is I too was never worried for her. Even while it's gross that they're making comments like we should like assault her.
Well, they start talking about like, what's your movie going to be that you're in with her? We could make 3 porns with one. Yeah, they're like, talking about making porno. And the one's like, I'm not going to be in mine. I'm going to like direct. I'm like, God.
She's amazing. Like she is like, as this film goes on, she's just iconic because she goes through a gamut of like really shitty stuff, but she's just like not very scared. I feel like because she still knows that she's just in with absolute idiots. Yeah. And so like they take her to like the club, they kidnap her to the club and she's like, I'm good. Like this is going to be okay in the end. Yeah. Oh wait, but that is actually one of my favorite scenes in the film is the car chase scene that happens with her because the guys like snatch her. And then Axel and Molly, I guess, like rush. Not really.
Oh,
they try to rush to the car, and Axel's just like taking his time.
He's got to turn around. I was like, please make him not be able to just out, and he can't. And I'm like,
he can't. He needs to he has to do like multiple like backups and forwards to like get this car out. And then the car chase scene, it's like they're chasing them through, and at one point. Axel like stops like at a red light. Yeah. And the brother's like, dude, like go, like they have my sister. And he's like, I'm at a red light.
Yeah, he's like, and he's like, didn't you see they almost got in an accident running the red light?
I was just like, this is but absolute ridiculousness. Like I was not worried for anyone's life, but it was it's just wild. It's like one of the best car chase scenes I've ever seen because it's absolutely bonkers.
The coverage on it's really good. The editing, they have some really good shots of the car. I'm like, wow,
aerial shots.
Yeah, these are really impressive. They had some from behind the car that were really good, really low. I was like, wow, for this quirky comedy, they've got some good stuff here at the car chases. And one of my favorite, so my favorite joke that happened in the movie is, so they have to go to this club, which is this like, you got to ask somebody to know about the club, but it has a giant sign that's lit up like you can find. And when they drive by, the 3 mafia guys are outside, and one's dressed like a soldier or something, and they're watching it. He's like, and the main one's like, just stare at them as they drive by, and he tells the fat one, he's like, now spit on the ground, and he goes like to look tough.
Spits on himself. Like,
Yeah.
he can't even get spit out of his mouth.
And they're doing it to look tough, and it's the funniest thing. It's like, oh my gosh, because that's like, they're commenting on movies they see and stuff like that. I was just like, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. And then they
also, they're wearing Trojan warrior outfit, which I don't understand. Like, I don't know if that was explained, but they're also and they're anatomically correct, because there's one henchman guy who's super skinny and strong, so he's got like a little one. And then there's the other guy who's a little more heavier set, and he's got like a bigger one. And it's just like, why are they wearing these? It's never explained. It's the absolute odd, like, and that's a good way to phrase a lot of this film, is that there's so many like things happening, and it's all going so fast.
Yeah.
That you're sitting there wondering, like, why the fuck are these guys wearing these Trojan warrior outfits? They're bouncers at a punk nightclub. Like, is anyone going to explain why they work at Caesar's Palace?
Right.
I don't understand it, but it doesn't. We don't need to understand it. It's fine.
My thing, that's kind of like, I have an odd sense of humor, and one of my favorite things that get me to laugh is when something doesn't make sense, and I think it's like, why is he like? One of my favorite gags in Better Off Dead, the John Cusack movie, is there's a scene where him and I can't remember which of the women that are his attention are in the lunch line, and if you just look behind him, there's a kind of a stocky kid with like a mesh shirt, sunglasses, a hat, and he's just standing there with a fork like this, and there's just
no commentary,
nothing. He doesn't get any lunch. And he's just walking. He's not facing the lunch thing. He's just to his side like this, and he just walks on through. And that cracks me up. That's the kind of stuff, like, if it doesn't make sense, and I pull these jokes that don't make sense on people. Some people understand my humor, some don't. But the looks on people's faces when they just doesn't make sense to them, that makes me laugh. So, haha.
That was me most of this film, because most of this film, there's like things happening in the background, or like we were talking, like the outfits that people are wearing, or like the music that's playing in the background. And I'm just like, it's absolute nonsense. This whole film is nonsense, but it does have sense to it to a degree.
Right.
Like it. And I think that is why this obviously is such a popular film, because while there's so many chaotic things happening, this could have been a horrible film.
Yeah,
like, it could have gone so horribly. Like this whole like thing through the night of this girl getting kidnapped, and Axel trying to find a remote, and them getting to this nightclub, or even like that scene that we just talked about. They do it with such good timing, and they're all such good character actors that it works. I totally believe that these guys think like they are the absolute dumbest gangsters on the planet, but they think they are so hard.
Or like, this is what we have to do. Like we have, it is so, it's so like you said, funny, like zany, quirky characters and good actors to populate them really breathe life into this movie. Like the movie's only like, he has a remote control he needs to get from here to here. Things are going to happen. This can get up. And like, it's really simple, straight through, but it's what those people do that really, really give this life. And
also I feel it's like the little things that the film sets up early on, like little things where you see it for the first time. So great example would be is his mom from the very start is like, you have all of these fish in a bathtub. And if you don't show up with this remote, I'm going to flush these fish out.
Right.
And he's like, don't kill these fish. Why are the fish there?
And he keeps,
why are there fish in a bathtub?
And he keeps telling his sister, because his sister, it's important to him that his sister goes and sees his mom. Because we meet his sister at the beginning, and that's how he gets involved with Unar and through this. And he keeps pushing that, you need to go home. You need to go home. And he keeps telling her, like, she's going to flush the fish from the bathtub. Like, that's important to her, too. So I'm like,
and I'm sitting here like were they there's, and it's like,
there's a lot of them.
It's also not small fish. There's straight up koi. There's like koi fish in this thing. Yeah. Like, why? Like, was that like their dinner? Why is it there? And it's never explained at the start. It's never explained at all really why they're there, but there are things that happen throughout the film that are hilarious because of like their early setup. So like the fish scene, there's like a party that we can talk to in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
The fish like make an appearance there and something horrible happens to the fish in the bathtub. But it's just like these things that you're like, why the fuck is this happening now? Another one is when they finally, when Molly and Axel finally get to that club, right? Mm-hmm. The gangsters, I guess, are thinking, we need to find, what is it? They want to find Axel or Molly. No, they want to find Molly because he screwed them over on the alcohol.
Right.
And they wanted to find them. So they they draw a mugshot because I don't know. Like I'm assuming it's just because like they don't have a photo of him or any other way to have a picture.
But nobody's seen him. Nobody knows who he actually is.
Right.
Yeah, because he hides.
That's right.
Yeah,
he hides. That's right. Because he's such a secretive guy working above a liquor store. So they like draw a mugshot and they're passing it around, and it's the dopiest drawing ever. It technically could look like anybody, and so Molly and Axel get like confused.
Yeah, it's a picture of Molly, or it's Axel, but it says it's Molly.
So it's just so there's that scene where like everyone's like getting those passed around in the club, and there's this one perfect scene. So like they're like all in I think it's like Molly and Axel finally made it to the club. I guess I don't know. I can't remember if they'd found the girl yet, but I think his sister's on there's a phone conversation happening, and for some reason Axel has to shout out his address.
Yes.
He has to shout out his address, and he shouts it out, and there's like a moment of silence where he shouts it.
The song's over. The band.
Song's over, and there's a break in the music, so everyone hears this address. I remember thinking in the moment, I was like,
Dolong's 10.
I was like, this is going to be an issue. I don't know why it's going to be, because I was just thinking for some reason he was going to shout it, and a connection would happen in like the fake mafia guys would show up at the house. But that is not that is not what happens. It just ends up like setting up a scene later where everyone at the club,
it's the after party,
decides to go to that apartment, that house. And it's just like that's those things, like those moments where it's like something happens and it sets up something coming, and it's going to, there's going to be, or you hope at least, this is going to follow through. And you're like, why was his address shouted? Nothing happened in that moment. Obviously, something's going to come down the way that pays off for it. So there's just moments like that throughout the film that I really enjoyed. And it's, like I said, if this wasn't done so well, it could have been so horrible, like, and cheesy, but it's not. It's hilarious.
It plays by its own rules, but it has rules. And it is really good at setting something up to pay off later, and in a way that's kind of can pull the rug out from under you, or you might forget and it comes back. Right. But it's quite funny the way they happen. Like the 10 thing, you're like, oh, that's gonna. There's a weasel guy that like is like in with the mafia guys. He's not one of them, but he's like, oh, he's gonna share that, and then you see him like. He shares it, but then he's like, oh, telling people like, yeah, party. Oh, I heard that. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay.
That's right. Oh, and there's a moment where the guy gets the picture. He goes and tells, what's the guy's name again? Aggie. He goes and tells the wannabe mafia guy, like, oh, this guy was in your club. And Aggie just turns around and he's like, he would never get in here. And they're literally all Molly, Axel, the sister, they're all up in this club. Everyone's in this like super quote hard to get in club, which is really not that difficult to get into. But I just love that like they're literally all walking around the crowd right around where this guy is, and he's like, they would never be able to get in here.
Right.
It's just absolute dumb stuff, but it's so good the way that it's timed for like that to happen.
They do sneak in. That's how they get in.
That's right. They sneak in through like
where the shitty drink is being stored. They're like doing something to the drink at the club on their own or something.
These are the things where it was like there were so many things happening at once. I was like, okay, so they're sneaking into the club. There's some alcohol being brewed. There's a band over here like playing excessively loud, like metal, like hard music. I love the band, by the way. The fact that they actually have Ham in this film, like actually great music happening, but it's like it's all so much happening at once, and it's so chaotic.
It puts you in Axel's shoes. Like, what is going on? I just wanted a remote.
Right. Exactly. He just wants the remote. I'm trying to remember what is the process that leads them back to the apartment, because everyone else shows up at the apartment. I'm trying to remember, like, what is it like that they because Unar was like trapped in the club.
She's like tied up in a closet.
And then there's a scene, I guess, like where they have like that scene with the bodyguards where they're all fighting, and like you're right, like there's like the one crazy bodyguard, and there's the other bodyguard that's like, I don't really want to fight anybody or kill anybody or hurt anybody. And like those two have a situation where I guess like the bigger bodyguard gets mad and accidentally hangs the skinny bodyguard, and he's like choking to death, and it's like, it's wild. Because Axel, there's a whole sequence where Axel goes in the ductwork to find Unar, and like it's dirty as hell in there. And I do like the one part where he's trying to go through and he's over where the band is playing in the club, and it starts to come apart and it shakes and dirt's coming on, and Aggie is like looking up and it like gets in his mouth and stuff. He's like, I gotta fix that ductwork or whatever. Or they're playing too loud. Like not even paying attention to like how this could be happening. Like these guys are literally breaking into your exclusive club and just not realizing like what is going on at all. Yeah, and he gets her, and then they go to the end, but the guy is there to meet him. They go backward. And then, he's trying to stop the guy. Stuff happening, like everyone's like passing around each other, right? It's absolutely crazy. And the almost hanging. I was like, oh my gosh! And then he doesn't die. I thought he was dead, but I was like, I thought he was going to die. I was. But granted, I'm obviously glad that he didn't, because it just shows they can't even kill. Like they literally suck at killing. Like it's not a cynical movie. It's not a it fits with it. So like they go, because he gets her. But he had given the keys to Molly before, so they can't leave in the car, so they just walk back to his place. I guess this is a not very big, I mean, it isn't a big town, because it doesn't seem like it takes very long to get anywhere or to walk anywhere, I guess. So I think like that's right. Yeah, I think that's right, because like they start to make it back to his apartment. And by this point, all of those people at the party have now ended up at Axel's apartment, right? Which leads to one of my other favorite scenes of the film, which is all these rockers just like tumble in through the door, and the mom is at the apartment, fast asleep, just knocked out, and they all just like start playing music and drinking and eating food and like crashing everywhere. And these two, I think it's like one of the two guys from the band, they come in and they see this woman sleeping. And they try to wake her up, and she's knocked out. Well, they take her hearing aid out of her ear. Oh, that's right. They snap in her ears. She doesn't wake up. They take out her hearing aid completely, and they take her out, mattress and everything. Straight up, like drag this woman, not just like out in the hall. They're like, I think it's like they keep saying like, oh, what if like she's gonna wake up? So like they take her in the hall, they take her to an elevator, and they go down the elevator, and there are people waiting to get on the elevator. Right. It's some of Molly's people delivering equipment, because I guess an agreement was made where Molly was going to send some equipment. That's a funny part. That's a funny side part. So while they're walking home and this party's happening, Molly and Aggie, which Aggie runs into Molly but doesn't think he's Molly. He thinks it's his childhood friend Joe, because they have this marking on their hand. Yes. And he convinces him he's that. But then they get on the phones and they're wheeling and dealing against each other about doing a drop at this party where he's having all the electronics delivered for the mom and needs some drinks or something. And both guys are like there. And he's like, can you meet him out this street? Because they hear they're around in the area. So they're both in the party, but have to go out to a road to do the There's like double deals being made at this party with different people on the phone. And there's an exchange between them at the party. These two, one of the guys is like, hey, what's the address of this place? Yeah. But they're both on the phone. And they got to go meet out in the street, even though they're at the party. Oh, it's funny. And then the fish we mentioned earlier get peed on. Someone just peed in the tub. We still don't know. I don't really know if they never get drained. I don't know if they would die from that, but that's obviously not good. No. But still doesn't explain why they're there. That is one of the loose ends. But I'm okay with that. I kind of just like that there's fish in a bathtub. Right. It's weird, but I like it.
the mom. So while she's being taken out to a canal or something to like be put in a little boat and
yeah, they put her in a boat, and then like the boat somehow, I forgot how the boat makes it to the canal, but like she gets put in a boat by the guys.
Like,
they just toss her in there. They're like, we hope she gets some sleep.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But like, so during that, like, Axel and Unar get picked up by the mafia guys, and he's like desperate to kill. Like they plan this out. They like want to kill somebody by putting cement in a tub and dropping them in the water and drowning them, like classic mafia stuff. And they're all about it. And he's like awake during it, and they're like, well, you got to let it dry. He's like, how long does it take to dry?
Like 30 minutes. It takes us like 30 minutes. And he's like, damn it.
And
they don't know how to do anything. They can't even kill anybody.
And this old fisherman is walking way in the back. He's like, you need to kill him. He saw this or whatever. And he says the big guy who doesn't want to kill him, he's like, he wants to go talk to you. He's like, why?
Right.
I'm just going fishing. No.
The fisherman is literally like, I don't give a shit. Like and I think the other guy, right? Like one of the other like guys comes up to him and like has like a face off with him. And then he's just like, it's like, what is going on? Like, and he's and like they kidnapped 2 kids.
Yeah, the 2 kids that go by and they're like, oh God. And I'm like, how many more people are going to come by?
How many people are going to, that was also amazing. Just great. Like there's so many people coming. These guys think that every time a person comes, and there's just like I think it was the right amount of people, but it would have been hilarious if it had just been what if it been like a group of people walking? You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean?
Bike goes by.
Right.
Worker
every
comes.
single person. We all got to kill and they can't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Because one of them, like you see, one of the guys doesn't even want to kill anybody. He's not into it, doesn't want to do it. The other one is psycho and probably really wants to, but the boss has literally no brains. So he can't even get cement, and understand how that works to kill somebody. Cause you're so right. They're just they're dollar store mafia guys. And they have just watched too many American mafia gangster movies, but they don't actually understand how to fall through on a single thing that they want to do.
I wrote down that we're introduced to them as imposing figures only to find out that they're only posers.
Perfect. That's exactly what they are.
That's what I wrote about.
Exactly what they are. They're so ridiculous. Their outfits, the way that they talk, it's so bad, but it's so good. That's actually what it is.
Yeah.
With it. They're so bad that it's hilariously good. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then so this ends up in Axel saving his mother, who floats by, crashes in the boat, almost drowns.
Right.
Augie gets in there. He can't swim, but they're like, yeah, whatever. And the cops come pick him up, and the 2 other guys get away, and they start going well, we're gonna have to run. He's gonna rat on us. We got to get out of here. And there's they can't go to certain places, and I think they make a line of well, we could go to blah blah blah, which sounds like a city, which is probably a joke for Iceland people or something funny, but it's kind of funny end for those guys.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, do you know? And I think they get at they ask each other, do you speak English? And they're like, no. Do you speak Danish or something? No. They're all these places that they think that they would be able to go to, but also I think the thing that's hilarious is I can't see. I don't even know if because their boss gets caught. I don't even think their boss would be able to rat them out successfully.
No.
Because they're that bad at what they do. And I kind of imagine the cops would probably just want to get rid of this guy and put him back out. He's not even worth jail time.
Right.
He's just because he's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
And such a dope. He's not, maybe prison time would do him good because maybe he'd actually learn.
Right.
Some things. So, but no, that's hilarious. And I think there's also near the end, there's fireworks going off.
Yeah. Yeah. I was from his apartment, I think.
At Axel's apartment. And it's him and the girl are watching the fireworks happen and they're having their little moment.
Yeah.
Finally. But I also love how he's wait, is that coming from my apartment?
Yeah, because they never get there for the party. They never know that the party's happening.
Yeah, it's just so funny where it's they have this moment where they're oh, look, there's a fireworks. And it's it's coming from your apartment. It's not no, there's not random fireworks shows that are happening.
Yeah, at
in your
4 in the morning or 5, whatever.
It's so good. I think that so many people in this film are like so oblivious to like everything else that's happening. And then somehow no one dies because there are so many things that could have gone wrong.
I gotta say, I'm really into Iceland's sense of humor. I really,
yes, it's so good.
Really easy to jump onto. Yeah, and the movie wraps up with the mom coming home. There's just electronics wall to wall interplay. She's like, I just wanted a remote.
That's all I want. They did. I can't. It's so absolutely ridiculous. And she doesn't get a remote, but I don't know. Or maybe there is one. Maybe, isn't there like one, or is there like something like? I mean, there's so many boxes in there.
Well, the one that Unar had got smashed when she got kidnapped. So when she pulls that out, it's smashed.
I remember actually. I think I remember this. There is a remote, right? Because there's this other tiny bit where isn't it that Unar thinks that she can
telepathically,
thinks she can telepathically change the TV channel. Like with her telepathically do it. And so she's like, oh wait, like it's okay. We don't need a remote.
We've been hearing about it the whole movie. Yeah.
We've been hearing it that she's got telepathy or whatever. So she goes and does it. And the TV starts to the volume starts to raise and the channels start to change. And then it goes over to Axel's sister and she's got a remote. And she's doing it. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, this girl's been falling for this shit for years.
Yeah.
It's like amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that like she's still going to be oblivious and thinks that she can do it. But it's perfect. Like that's like when I think like the final scenes, like they're all finally back at the apartment. And Unar thinks that she can still change a TV.
I can finally show my trick. Yeah. Like you don't need the remote.
No, it's such a good that's like a good kind of way to end
and I didn't realize the sister had a remote control the whole time to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I just am now realizing. Oh yeah, like it
and
probably
none
didn't
of this could have happened. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then it's like it's like Axel and her have they go to the pad or the balcony.
Yeah.
And I guess they're good now.
That's it. Yeah.
I guess they're a thing. And the movie just ends like that. And I remember I had to sit back. I was wheezing laughing at the end of this film because I was like, this was so absolutely chaotic the whole ride. And for it to kind of just end on a beat like that,
we have nothing left to say. There you go.
That's it. Yeah. There's not even there's no quirky. Because I think that's also what's funny is I feel often I mean, not always. It depends on the comedy here in the US, but I feel like there needs to be some final line, scene, something. I like how it's just no, that's it. We got nothing left. This has been it's been chaotic enough. You don't need it to end on some groundbreaking quote or joke, I guess. It's just
if this was made in America and modern, the credits would end and we'd go back to the electronics store with people, and then a guy who you'd never seen come in and they'd be like, who are you? He's like, I'm Molly. And they're like, no, you're not. It's Molly. And you're like, I'm Molly. And then they're like, this is Molly. And they show a picture of him. He's like, that's Joe. And it's that's how that would.
You know what? That's right. We'd have a whole Marvel mid credit or end credit scene. We would
he was Joe, and this is really Molly, and this guy was pulling one on people. I don't know. That's just my cliche writing cliffhanger.
I could see it.
Writer brain. Can you give me a cliche ending, Brandon? Oh, right away. Just give me a bullet.
I got you. It's such a I don't know. That's why I think this film is. But also, I think it's such a good film. But I also think that is why this absolutely would be something I think. The comedy does transfer over to, I think, here, for US viewers, I think 100% you'd enjoy watching it. Cause there are definitely there's comedy for different countries just because of the culture or even language barriers or just what I guess in their own pop culture they find funny. That's why I've never been a big Brit humor fan. I've tried watching British satire and Brit comedy, I guess comedic films, and I'm not as into it as I would like to be, but this one it tracks. It's hilarious. Yes. And I guess if you're a big fan of 90s style stuff, this is a good film for you in that kind of vein too. Yeah. So yeah.
I would love nothing more than for this to get a Blu-ray release, but it has not been available in the United States since VHS. And this would be perfect for your Severin Films. I'm calling out to you.
Right.
Vinegar Syndrome. This is a gem Like, you could grab this from Iceland, put it out, and no doubt, had I seen this movie back like 90s or something, this would I have no doubt this would have been one of my favorite films growing up. Like, I would be all over this thing.
100%.
Like, yeah, it's fun, has a great energy, and like bounces around so successfully. Like folks, seek out this movie. I'll tell you, it's on YouTube, so I know not to say that, but like the access to this movie is not there, so I don't feel guilty saying that. It's got subtitles for you. These ones actually are in sync with the movie.
Yeah, these are in sync.
Well. And no ads.
Right.
It's quite possibly my favorite discovery so far doing this show, and I don't think I've done a lot of movies I haven't seen before on this show that people bring, but this one was just in podcast. Listen, I'll just go podcasting in general.
I found this. Yeah, I'm so glad that we did this and got to cover it. And
like, I'm just floored.
I would highly rec it for anyone to watch if you're just like in for, and because it's not super long, and two, because it's not complex in a lot of ways. I mean, it's chaotic, but it's not complex. You don't really like just being like, there's a guy trying to find a remote and a lot of shit happens in a night in Iceland. That's all you need. That's all you need to know.
The only deep factor with it is how clever they put this all together. Like, that's it. It's not deep. It's really funny. It's got, the characters are great. Like, I will give like mad props to a group of people if I saw them cosplaying the characters from this movie.
Oh my God.
I would recognize. They all look quite good. Like, yeah, I'm just like, oh, there's even part where Axel, when he went into the liquor store the first time, he goes in with her and he's just like, yeah, he orders jelly babies. He's just
right.
different. Which, have you ever had a jelly baby?
No, I mean, I wasn't sure if like that's just like what they call them over there. I'm assuming it's a jelly, but it looked like gummy bears.
Okay, so a jelly baby, which I discovered because I'm a huge Doctor Who nut. It's the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, was notorious. That was one of his things. Like, he'd always he was kind of just a jerk off sometimes, oh, jelly baby, and he'd have them in his pocket all the time.
Oh, okay. So is it like that's a specific
candy.
Brand name?
Yeah. It's a type of candy called jelly babies. Different brands make them. They look, so the thing is, I like them. I've had them. I can order them. We have a Doctor Who store that is called Who North America. That's about 40 minutes from me. The hub of Doctor Who merchandise for North America. It's located in Indiana for some reason, but they sell jelly babies in there, and I've picked them up a few times. And they're like a gummy thing, and they're powdered. But when you bite into them the first time, they're not the texture you're going to be expecting.
Right. Okay.
Because first time you're like, oh wow, that's not what because you want gummy bears. These are not gummy bears. They're thicker. They're a bit harder to chew, not harder to chew, but just they chew differently. But I've come to like them. My children like them. My wife hates them. But so if it wasn't for Doctor Who, I probably wouldn't know about the jelly babies, but I do dig them. I think you can get them on Amazon too. But yeah, that was something you ordered, and I was like, oh, and I kind of just like the casual nature of like, we're off on this mission. I'm just gonna, I'll take some jelly babies while I'm here. I
mean, look, when the hunger strikes, if that's what you're seeking,
right? Axel's just so nonchalant, oblivious that he's a good main character to follow.
Kind of why I will say, like, he's such a that's actually like a good point. Is like he's such a he's not ever like really like too anything. Like, he's never too freaked out, too angry, too anything. I mean, he's just I actually think in a lot of ways there are so many other characters that like take over the film from him. Like, he's a good like through line. Like, I mean, like, we're watching him go through all of this stuff.
Right.
But there are so many eccentric people throughout the story. Like, even just like from like there's one scene, for example, where I think it's his sister. I'm going to mispronounce her name. I hope I don't. It's, what is it? Maja or Maya or something like that. I feel like it was Maya, but like it's pronounced, or it's written Maja, but it's Maya. I think Maya, it's like she is dating Ish, one of the guys in the band. Mm-hmm. And then she's with Molly for like a moment, and they're like in a costume room or a closet of some kind. But the band member that she's with in the club is like watching them as they're walking around, and you can just see his face Like he's like, like he's getting so mad, and then like shows up and he like wants to like beat this guy up, and she's like, I'm not dating this guy, you idiot, or I'm not hooking up with him. Like it's little moments like that. Like the sister is such a character.
Yeah.
The people in the band are, I mean, I'm actually curious who, if you had one, was like your favorite. Cause to me, it's going to have to probably be like Aggie and like his henchmen.
Yeah.
Like that trio, they made the film for me because how absolutely ridiculous they were, but how they were so unsuccessful. And every single thing they tried to do, they just failed. And it was hilarious to watch.
I just like the transcendence of them looking all like we're going to get them people to just clowns. And and their conversations
absolute clowns.
They handle, like you mentioned earlier, the conversations they have could be gross and bad in the wrong hands, but they work here talking about like porn, sexual abuse, and then like we're gonna do drugs, sell drugs and stuff. But they're such idiots, and it's handled in such a way. And I think it's because they make Unar like, okay, what you need for the brothel here? Like, what we got?
Yeah, she's like, you want some girls? I go,
she's like, I got men too, and they're like, what? Like,
she's like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
It was so good, but like that's the thing. That's why it's
like a brothel isn't for you idiots. It's for your business. Like that's the thing, because they think they wouldn't be like. It's like these guys don't know. They would just have a brothel and use it themselves.
They're playing out like the Goodfellas in their mind, and like they just don't get it at all. But that's why I do love them. Yeah. As far as like characters, like they're perfect. So
they're good. Yeah. They're good. Yeah. This movie, Remote Control. The highest of praises. Like I went in like, cool, new thing to check out, and I just like 20 minutes in, I'm like, I think I love this movie. I hope it keeps playing this way. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, I hope Sharareh feels the same way. And you got on here and you're like, I really love this. I was like, okay, so this is a universally, at least between two people, love this movie.
I mean, I honestly think like this kind of like chaotic humor, I do feel like, I mean, like we were saying, like there are so many films that are like this. Like, look, if you could have watched a film like Superbad, or which I feel like is like the female version of it, like Booksmart, like these kinds of films.
Oh yeah, Booksmart's great. Yeah,
like teens just like having absolutely over the top scenario, and I because it's like it's like over the period of like one night. I mean, there's not too much else that could happen. It's in terms of like. We're just going through barely even a 24-hour period. Yeah. And it's so chaotic and good. And there's so many good character actors and or characters like and character acting happening. I don't know. I think everyone should watch it at least once. Like if that's like your thing, like if you're into those kinds of films, give this a shot. It's hilarious. I'm
telling everybody about this movie. Like Yeah. Like movie like dude, 92 Iceland,
remote control, baby.
I'm there for this. Like I'm late to the party by almost 30 years. But
it's wild. Don't remind me of the 90s are that far back. It's sad. Yeah. It's so sad that they're that far back. But yes, that's how far back it is.
I was 10 years old when this came out. Woo.
Oh God, I was 4.
There you go.
I'm an 88. I'm an 88 kid.
Awesome.
So this was definitely baby Sharareh was not watching this, but I will now. I'm gonna make up for it. I'm gonna have to like share this with a lot of friends.
Like I'm gonna be hitting up some of my VAM creators and acquisitions people I know about. Can you should really look into this one.
Yes, absolutely.
Please, because this movie rocks. So. What else? This is where we talk about things, if you've listened to the show before, we talk about other things we may have taken in the last week. Last week, what's up, Sharareh? Because you were here last week. So what else is up?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like I said, like I've been binging a lot of shows. There's been something. I mean, like I said, I played Mass Effect, got through that. Love that game. Can't wreck it enough. It's a really good immersive role play game. I mean, obviously like there's like fighting and action and stuff, but it's a really good story. Stuff like that. Another show, I literally have binged this in the past. Actually, I think in the past 24, or at least couple days. Never Have I Ever. It's like a teen show. I feel like it's geared, like that's the audience it's geared towards, or like young adults. But I'm really into it because I don't know like how familiar you are with the show, but it's about essentially this Indian American girl in like I think it's like she's in Sherman Oaks or somewhere in the Valley, I think.
Okay.
And it's just like her in high school and like her high school experience being like an Indian American teen. And she just really wants to be cool and like date popular boys. And like, it's just like that whole high school experience. I find it super relatable to the degree that like I'm Iranian American and I relate to so many things that she's going through as like a brown girl, like being in high school, just like all of the complications of like, like being super nerdy or being seen as different, all of those things. But it's a good show and it's absolutely hilarious. So I just binged that and I'm very late to the game on this. I just started watching the Cobra Kai series. That's on Netflix.
I still have not got to that one yet. Like I've heard it's great.
Good.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I watched The Karate Kid. Like generally, like, you know, I've seen it obviously a few times. Thought it was a good film. Like, I'm not like obsessed with it or anything, but I liked it. It was good. Seeing this series makes me want to watch it so bad over again. And it's such a good spin where the whole like idea of like basically this like mentor finding a kid who's down on his luck, like that formula is used again, but instead it's the bad guy, it's the bully, like being the sensei. Now it's you. I watch it, started watching it a couple days ago, and my husband thinking it's gonna be really cheesy. I'm not gonna be into it. It's probably gonna be done really badly. Can't stop watching.
That's what I've heard. I've heard nothing but good things. I just haven't. I think my thing was I want to watch the Karate Kid movies again before I do it.
I could see that. And then they do have a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like there's so many flashbacks, at least from what I've seen so far in the film, or sorry, in the show about the film, that I feel like even if you'd never seen it, like, which I don't know how you could have not. I mean, I guess if you didn't grow up in that time, you didn't watch it. But if you'd never ever seen the movie before, they do a good job of like referencing things.
Okay.
Like, and they show clips from the movie to like for like flashbacks and stuff. But I too, like, I think it would totally be worth watching both. I think it's 1 and 2, like watching Karate Kid, the first one, and then the sequel, watching both of those before watching this would definitely be a good setup. You don't need to though, but like you could. But yeah, I can't recommend enough. I'm only in the first season right now, and I think it's got 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Right now on Netflix. It's so good though. I like it.
I took my kids we went to the drive-in to watch the first Karate Kid last summer, and like my son wasn't that into it because I think he wanted to stay home and play video games that night. I think he was mad, and then my daughter liked it but passed out before it was over. So I was like, I'll have to watch it again, and then I just didn't pick up on it from there because it's like, okay, then I'll watch Cobra Kai, and then it just didn't work out from there. But yeah, so I still need to catch up on that one.
It's a good one.
Things I've been trying since like last year. My goal was to not rush into things or just go at my own speed is what I was.
No, I mean, look, I've
so much being on social media and stuff. There's so much pressure to watch everything. Everything's great. Why aren't you watching this? Oh, everyone's awful because they're not watching this or and then you're like, oh, I gotta hold on.
I do get that. I mean, admittedly, like there's some shows where I feel like depending on like how big it is, like for me, like work wise, I had to watch Loki like ASAP. Like I needed
I watched Loki right away.
I couldn't like wait on that. But some of these things, like I think it's also nice, like when they build up. Like I've got 3 seasons waiting. Like I don't have to wait. And sometimes as much as I want to watch a series, I almost want to wait for it to build up a little bit. So I don't have to wait. Like I recently binged like Shadow and Bone on Netflix, and like I am so into it, but now I have to wait.
Gotcha. I like the week to week drop. That's been a fan because I can keep up with that. When like Netflix is like, here's a show and then next week we have another show all together. It's like, ooh,
it's a lot. It's a lot to consume.
Then people talk about it for a week and it's gone. But I've been trying to go at my own pace. And when I have a lot of friends who are critics and stuff that go to screenings or get screeners early and stuff, and I get screeners early, but it's mostly like independent horror films that probably don't have distribution yet or something like that, which is cool, and I love supporting that. But like, it's not the big things people are going to talk about yet. But
I got you.
I do, and some friends will share a screening link or two with me. like during award season, so I can best write my wrap up. But like, yeah, so that's extra pressure, like, because in the critical world, like once the movie comes out, they're like done. They're on the next thing. They wrote about it.
Exactly. Yeah, you've already seen it. I completely get that.
And I miss too, like when the conversation lasted for a while about a movie. Like the big movie of the summer might get talked about for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
You know, like
it goes by. I do get what you mean, because I feel like it makes me think back to just even like high school and college, when like something like so major would come out, that was like all you spoke about for like months. But yeah, there's so much. But at the same time, I think like, especially if you work in this industry, like working in entertainment, it's difficult because you do feel the pressure of, I need to consume everything so quickly.
Yeah.
No one can do that at all. I used to be like very stressed out about it. Like, oh, I need to watch everything. So I'm like on the pulse of everything. No, there are some things that I take a very long time to get to. Like I didn't watch Succession until way after.
I watched both seasons were already done when I watched it, and I was like, holy shit, this is really good.
This is good. But like I took my time with it. That was when we're like, no one would shut up about it. And I don't know what to say. Like when it first came out, I was like, at the time with everything that was going on in this country, it was like, do I want to watch a bunch of like rich, white, wealthy people bitching at each other? I was like, it's not the first thing I want to watch, but now I get the hype. I get the hype. I'm about Kendall Roy. I get and Cousin Greg. Love me some Nicholas Braun. I get the hype on it, but it is one of those things. And that's the thing though, too. I'll just say that when so many people are talking about it, I don't know what it is about my personality. It can turn me off a bit. Like if everyone
you're going with high expectations, then
so I kind of I wait for my time. I mean, there again, depending on the show, like Loki is one of my favorite. It is technically, I guess, is my favorite character. Like anything in Marvel, completely. And also, I'm a huge Tom Hiddleston fan, so I was going to watch that. But like WandaVision and Falcon, I took a bit before I watched them. Well, like I didn't. Yeah, both of them. I just kind of like waited a bit. But I think, it just depends. At the end of the day, it just depends on the show. Like if it's something that I'm like, I've been very eager about, or the cast is a cast that I really care about, or maybe like it's a director that I really enjoy or a showrunner, 100% will go watch it ASAP. Right. But I don't know. You also need to like have, I mean, if you can have a bit of a life, go do other things, see the sun, go outside maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like, I never, like, it wasn't until, like, lockdown stuff that I finally checked out Broadchurch. Like, I'd heard
I haven't done that yet, but I've heard about it.
Now's the time. And it was all there, all 3 seasons. And it's very good. It's a very downer show. It's a very gloom show, but it's really, really good.
That's what I want to watch. I will, but that's the other thing, too. It's like being home a lot. I've definitely had my spurts where I think right now I'm in a feel good, happy, like which good thing I watched Remote Control when I did, like, it's a good, happy, like comedic film, but there are definitely periods where I'm like, I just want drama and depression.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I just want to get really sad and cry. Like they're like,
make it hurt.
Exactly.
I want to feel down.
I'm in my good vibes right now, but eventually I'll hit a point where I'm like, I'm ready for like that. And I mean, granted, we are heading towards the fall. So I'm about to get on my horror kick soon. And I'm like, that's all I'm going to consume like day and night. So
there we go. That's the way to go. My what else? I finished reading the book Dune Messiah from Frank Herbert. It's the sequel to Dune, a follow-up book. And I will say this about it. It's a much easier read than the first Dune.
Okay.
The first Dune, I am notorious for telling people it's the best book that's a bitch to read. Like it is, it's an amazing story. It's really good. It's really well written, but it's dense or kids would say dense AF.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And Dune wasn't written like a traditional book. When you buy Dune as a book, it's a collection of pieces he wrote in a magazine month to month to month.
Okay.
Collected together. And it's actually 3 books in one, because he completed one thought, completed another. Dune Messiah, I really liked a lot. I think overall I might like it better than the original Dune. It's a streamlined through. It doesn't take place over this grand period of time. It's 12 years after the first Dune. It takes your lead, your protagonist from the last one, flips shit around,
Okay.
And it's like, holy shit. Like, it could, if, say, this new Dune movie takes off, wins over the world, we all
Right.
love it, and it gets its own kind of stan culture with the characters.
Right.
This would fucking end stan culture. Because they would not like how some people, including
End up.
their hero, is in the next book. But I think it's
Okay.
really, because Herbert was a smart guy, and he could see, and very philosophical. His writing's just like, God, goddamn, that's a great sentence. Like, you'll read it, being like, oh gosh. This one, he's like, he took like what happens when someone has too much power, because in Dune, people get power, and like the repercussions of that, how one side views heroism to what's on the other side of that heroism and stuff. And it's really cool. And it introduces some new species to the world and just makes you think differently about different. It's brilliant, I think. I know it's like a lesser liked Dune book, but I think it's because of that reason, because of the brilliance, the kind of Last Jedi thing that fanboys don't understand when you're actually dissecting material deliciously, challenging what came before, questioning things that should be questioned. That's there. So, Dune Messiah, really like. So I read Dune to read Dune Messiah, because I read Dune in middle school and I still have my book. So I'm like, last summer, I'm like, I'm going to read Dune again. And it took like 2 months to get through Dune, because I would read it in little spurts, because I wanted to just like enjoy it.
It's a lot.
I wanted to enjoy it and soak in rather than just read to get through it. And then I took a break. I'm like, no more Dune for me for a while. And I picked up Dune Messiah, read it much faster, much more smoothly this year. And now I'm like, ooh, well, now I want to read Children of Dune, which I wasn't like after the first Dune, which is great, which is a great book. It's one of the best science. Like, it informs a lot of science. You have Star Wars from Dune. You have so much stuff. I wanted to see the Hodorowski's Dune that there's a great documentary on. He was going to make it in the 70s, and they pulled the plug on him, and it was going to be this fucking wild acid trip of a movie. I don't know if you've seen any of Alejandro Jodorowsky's films before.
I don't think I'm super familiar.
We could do a thing just on him where I show you his films and be like, what? We'll watch it sober, and then we'll watch it with an edible, and we will talk about his damn movies, because they are, people think Lynch crazy, but Jodorowsky's on another planet, and he's brilliant too with it. It's just really, but so Dune Messiah. And we also had a Dune trailer this week.
Yes, we had the Dune trailer drop. It looks epic. Yeah, absolutely epic. And it's like one of those, I think I am curious to see how it actually plays, because I feel like there's obviously people who you've read it, you're familiar with it, you're familiar with the story, that are excited. There's a lot of people who I think are just seeking something epic to watch, because right now I think there's been some time since like all the Star Wars films came out. You have your Marvel heads, your DC peeps, like they've got their big films that have come out. You have things like that. I think it's been a minute since I've seen something like what I'm going to call it unique in my mind, like that steps outside of like these like massive like franchises that like looks as insane as this does. So I'm excited about that. My only but is that, and because I have to say, because I've been venting about this a lot on social media.
I told you I wanted you to share this because I think it's important.
My biggest issue with it at the end of the day is the film Dune, the books, a lot of these and a lot, like you said, there's a lot of things that this has inspired. There is this issue in sci-fi, and I think also I'm going to say in adventure films and action films too, but sci-fi is I think really prevalent in that it often that you notice there are these landscapes or these cultural allusions and callbacks to essentially Arabic, West Asian, and Islamic culture. And it would be great if because Dune does all of that. And I would be so excited, more excited, I feel for this film. Cause I'm kind of, it looks great, but I'm looking at the cast and I don't see any West Asian representation at all. I'm not, unless of course there's been someone casted I'm not familiar with, people, obviously there are people who are mixed and maybe I don't know every part of their background, but as far as I understand it, it doesn't have great West Asian casting, at least not any of the major roles. And the problem is if you have a film that takes from a story, that takes from those cultures, and you don't even try to, and this is obviously more of like a casting choice. This is not, I mean, I could go into a whole other discussion about just the story itself and ripping from that culture.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, okay, this film, like, it's kind of hard not to see the correlations to like Arabic and Islamic culture, like the words, the names, the setting, and to not have some of that casting, like some of that representation in the casting. That's my big issue. And the biggest issue is because, I mean, right now there is such limited representation when it comes to, in general, West Asian casting. Like, let's put Dune aside, just like in anything. Like,
you rarely get Guy Ritchie's Aladdin. You rarely get,
which is like a whole other film I could vent about, because
right.
I mean, Aladdin, it's like right. So I often will get this, like, people will be like, oh, like, but you had like Aladdin, and I'm saying like Aladdin is
cool one.
Well, it's one, but it's an Arab wonderland. It's not based in any reality. It is also, honestly, it is like West Asia and South Asia, like cultures colliding into this kaleidoscope of things. So it's not like Aladdin for me is not the absolute basic way I can say it. It's not my Crazy Rich Asians. Okay. It's not my like momentous moment where I'm excited to be like, to go to the theaters and be like, I see myself on screen. No, when I see Aladdin, I'm seeing a character. And not even a great character. Like if it had been like some really, in my opinion, like a very authentic storytelling of like the Aladdin that like I grew up reading with like all of these other amazing tales, sure, maybe I'd be excited. But it's, first off, it's done by a white guy, and it's just over the top Orientalism that I'm not excited to see.
It's kind of like well, I guess you're trying. Like,
yeah, I guess you're trying.
I guess, but
I mean, for example, I wouldn't go to someone and say like, I don't know. For example, like my husband's Mexican, and it's like, we were super excited to go and see a film like Coco. And it's like, we're excited to see it to a degree. I mean, like there's a lot of incredible things that are in this film, like the music and the characters and the story. But it's like, he's like, I want to see more like real life, like representation and Latinx, which is also like, I mean, there are so many groups. I think there are so many groups that are so underrepresented in terms of casting and representation in Hollywood. So I think what gets frustrating is when, I can only speak for myself and like my culture, I'm Iranian and I have a bit of like Armenian too. And it's when I see films where there's an opportunity and it's so badly missed, it gets me frustrated, because it's like, that could have been a moment we could have had a little bit in there. So, and I have heard the argument, I have like had some people on Twitter be like, oh, like, but wouldn't that be like, quote, racist? Or would that make it Orientalism if you're going to have, if like you only cast those people in that film because it's ripped from that culture? I'm like, I don't see it that way. I just think it looks ridiculous to not have like anybody at all.
The Freeman culture, that's the people in the black, they're called still suits, and they have the thing in their nose. Those are the people who live on Arrakis, which is referred to as Dune. Those are the people who live there, and that's where that casting would have been predominantly. But you get Zendaya and you get Javier Bardem as the Stilgar,
right? And it's like I'm excited that there is. I mean, granted, am I excited that there is at least some kind of BIPOC, representation in this film? Great. Like, is it an all white cast? No. Like, if it had been like that, I would have absolutely lost my shit. But it's something. But that is that whole, like that phrase I just said, it's something. There's something there. There's some people of color in it. It's not enough anymore. It's 2021. Totally, and there was a huge study. Like I'll give a shout out to this because I did a quick piece about it. Riz Ahmed recently teamed with the Pillars Fund, which is like a Chicago-based advocacy group, and the Ford Foundation. They created this huge fellowship. It's like $25,000 fellowship for Muslim storytellers. But they also did a study with the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative to highlight the marginalization of Muslims in Hollywood. Muslims right now account for just 1.6% of over nearly 9,000 speaking characters in 200 films, according to the study. Less than 10% of movies surveyed included a Muslim character in a speaking role. and they were predominantly male. So female Muslim representation is exceptionally low. And I know this is specifically about Muslims and that representation, and Muslims can be anything, like which the study does get into a bit, because, for example, there's a large population of Black Muslims, and they are so poorly represented in film and television, like when we're talking about Muslims, because Muslim is, I mean, to be Muslim, I mean, that's just a religion. So like you could literally be anything, like, and be that, but that representation is so low. The culture, which then means like that cultural representation of that religion is so low. And then when you just look at West Asian talent, so like, I mean, now I am glad that I feel like now I am just starting to see some things change. Like, for example, on TBS, there's a show called Chad, which is Nasim Pedrad. She created the show. She stars in the show. And it's about a Persian teen, like in high school, kind of like the Never Have I Ever show that I talked about. But it's like, she plays a Persian boy, like a 14-year-old boy named Chad. It's absolutely hilarious. And that's on TBS. It's huge. I grew up with like Friends and Sex and the City. Like, these are these shows that I was obsessed with watching. No one looked like me. And even today, it's extremely rare to see any kind of representation that I could be like, that's me, or I relate to that story. So that's kind of, and I know this is like a little bit of a tangent, but that's kind of why when you get these kinds of films where it would have been, like you said, like there was a group in this film that it would have made so much sense to have done that in some form. And I would have been, it doesn't have to be every single person. It would have been fine if that group was like a mixed group.
Right.
And there was like a mix of representation in that group, but to not have it at all when this story literally draws from that part of the world and that religion, it's frustrating. Granted, I haven't seen the film, obviously. So I will, one of the things that I try to do often is like, I have been upset so far about the casting. I do want to give the film a chance. I want to watch it. I want to see how things are done before I can give like a full blown, like, I can't stand this or not. But as of right now, just because there isn't even like anyone cast in the film that would make it feel a little more like, that would make me feel better about it. It's hard. But I also think this is something where, as we like right now, this platform that you're giving me to talk about this, and like I go on social media and I talk about this a lot. I do think, or like the study that just came out that's backed by Riz Ahmed, who's an incredible actor and is helping this community like get more representation where he can do that. As these conversations happen, I'm hoping that for sci-fi films, for action films, for all films, this representation starts to get better. And I would love to have my Crazy Rich Asians moment. I would love to have a film that has amazing Muslim talent, West Asian talent. And honestly, it doesn't have to be focused on that, because obviously, like literally every person on the planet, we all do the same shit. We all just have regular lives that we are living. So it doesn't even have to be focused on that, but just to see, everyone I think deserves to see themselves represented, and not like one film in 20 years, like represented.
Or one film through the year. You need
one film in a year.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like again, like cinematic wise, like visually, the trailer looks incredible. Yeah. The casting, like it is an incredible cast. I love Zendaya. I'm so excited to see her in this, but I don't know, yeah, if this progresses into multiple films, let's hope that they do better next time. Well, that would be great.
I mean, like boringly, like it's a systematic problem, because I'm sure this was brought like, well, we're going to make Dune.
I would think like, that you would hope that conversation happened.
And they're like, and then the money people are like, you mean the movie that bombed hard in the 80s? Yes. But we're going to do it good. A good Dune.
Right.
Yeah. And then they're like, okay, how much you need? This much. Well, we got the director of Arrival and Blade Runner. Okay. And then they're probably, instead of challenging and bringing the right casting, they're going for names to keep their money going. And that's a problem.
I know. And I get that. But it's like, I mean, and granted, I'm not saying like these, like, all could have been it, but it's like there are a few, not as many as like other, like, groups, but there are some, like we are starting to get some names, right? Like in this industry, like, I mean, Riz Ahmed, like would be an example. I'm not saying like maybe and it's tough because I get it. Like you need to find a person that fits the role, right? Like that has to happen as well. You can't just pop someone in just because like, oh, like, well, they fit this like X, like racial box. I get that. So it is one of those things where it's frustrating. I think there were plenty of, there's enough talent, like to plot from any like group that is not represented well. Like again, it's like, it's 2021. There are plenty of actors around like to cast. I get what you're saying though. It's like, do you need certain names to make people want to come?
It's a very scary project for a financier to take on. So I can see them being the problem, the root of the problem, rather than
I can see it.
Because if you look at the cast, I remember when the casting announcements were coming, like, Jesus Christ, who else is in Dune? Like,
well, yeah, no,
anyone not in Dune?
Yeah, like, it's almost like the Eternals, where I'm like, damn, there's a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, and it's a problem because it's a lot of money for a film that feels like Blade Runner 2049, all like probably going to be really good, probably going to bomb. As much as I want it to do well, like, probably going to bomb, but they might use pandemic, HBO Max dual release as an excuse to be like, well, we don't really know, so we'll make the second half. See. And they're only doing half of the book. Yeah.
Right. And it is also one of those things where it's like, I will say this too, for like, because I'll see, like, I hope I don't get any heat for this, but it's like, again, like, I'm not like a Dune expert. Like, there have been people who have discussed this far better than I have. I will give one shout out to probably like the best article that I've seen, which is Hannah Flint wrote a great piece for Sci-Fi explaining this much better than I ever could, because I'm not super familiar with Dune. Yeah. All I know is what I do know is where the inspiration for a lot of, like, we were talking about, like, the names, locations, characters, like all of that is it's not pulled out of nowhere. It comes from somewhere.
It's intentional. It is intentional.
It's intentional. And I think her piece really explains all of the, like, where everything comes from, kind of explaining the background of those things, as well as why it's an issue to do that. And then when you get the opportunity for this film to not try and pay some tribute in some way, like doing some better casting. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm excited to see the film, because I would say this for any film, like, where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. I need to actually watch it to give like my full like critique. I don't think that's fair for me to go off. Right. So casting alone, I can, because it's there, it's available. I can comment on that. I'm going to watch the film. And maybe like in a later podcast, we'll talk about it.
There we go. Yeah. And I just worry that people aren't going to see it because they're going to be like, oh, cool. Another white boy chosen one movie again. Cool.
Timothy Chalamet.
Cool. And it's this time it's Timothy Chalamet. We saw this with, they did this with Taylor Kitsch a couple times back in the day. And So I worry about, like, it's a very rich book. There's a lot to learn from it. And it's really interesting what he pulls from that culture and what they are kind of, because... Like,
I'm glad that so many people are. I will say this: I've always found this interesting. Like I was saying, with like sci-fi and action and adventure and stuff, it's like, damn, people really love our part of the world, apparently, because we're used like for inspiration for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I would just like it.
And this one probably uses it the most. Like, there's words that are spun off of things, and yeah. So he's his study, and he really wanted to show, I think he wanted to show positivity on that side of the world in a time where, even before the internet, before the internet, we were like, oh, it doesn't live here, scary, for everything. Right. And now I can have a conversation with someone tonight if I wanted to from somewhere else, which is why I still don't understand in today's world why we fear people we don't know from other, like, they're just living their lives.
Because obviously, like, we love exploring it in our film and television and books and games and stuff. So yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and I will say this, like, what would be a benefit? What would be the one pro or positive thing I will say is, like, if you read the books or if you watch the film, if you read like that piece that I'm talking about and you start to get a little more curious, maybe this can be your doorway to wanting to learn about the places and the religion and the people that inspired it. And that can be your doorway to understand it. Because I feel like that way for me, that's happened where, I've watched a film. Like, I mean, for me, this would be like, I was obsessed. This is like not exactly the same thing, but like I was obsessed with anime and manga as a kid, just because I found it cool. I was like, these are cool stories. And then that was my segue into like, I want to learn more about Japanese culture. I want to learn more about Japanese food. I want to learn more about this part of the world. And it took like these little, like, you know, I was picking up these comics, these little like my first ones were like the Sailor Moon books that were so dainty, like the binding was ripping apart as I was opening because they were so delicate, and I ruined like all of them. Like I wrecked them, like the pages were flying out and everything. They're so delicate little books, but that was my segue. I grew up in Tennessee. Like I wasn't gonna get that any way else, honestly. So like I remember just going into like the Borders or the Barnes and Noble, like going into the little like the tiny little anime section, and like you were like such a nerd if you were in that section, and I was like, I'm here, I'm reading Ranma, like this is what I'm doing. I'm reading the Dragon Ball Z comics, like, but that got me into that. So if there's like maybe one positive thing, it's like if you are into Dune and you're like, I find this interesting, look into it more and check it out and learn more about that part of the world, and you'll find out that it's freaking awesome. So
for sure. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And you'll learn like words like jihad take on a whole different meaning than what you've been trained to feel in America.
Exactly. I that's a good way to put it.
So there we go. All right. Well, that was great. That was wonderful. And that'll wrap us up today here. Sharareh, been another fun one. Next week, we already know it's great. We're going to do Girl Walks Home Alone at night from there on. And Sharareh, till then, let people know where they can keep up with your work. Oh, you'll be back on Friday's show. But till then, let people know.
Till then, you can find me on the Twitterverse at Sharareh Drury.
All right. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. Written work at WhySoBlue.com. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week. But until then, always remember to keep the positivity in your online film chatter.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.